What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of this Side Guys, we have Tad the Side. And Tad, we're sort of getting into our routine. We sort of talked about this during the off season, during the summer months. That's like, we sort of go in different directions with our episodes during the summer months, try to do fantasy stuff. We do some like fun trivia stuff. We do like just some random stuff. But once we get in season, we are very routine. So at the beginning of the week, guys, you will get our waiver wire episode. So who are the guys that you need to pick up for your fantasy roster at the beginning of the week? And then towards the end of the week, we give you our start sit decisions. So that is today's episode. Going into week 2, we give you some start sit decisions as far as like, avoiding some of the big names, because in fantasy football, you start your stars. It's like, you start your CeeDee Lambs, you start your Jamar Chases, you start your, Bijan Robinson. So we're not going to cover those guys. It's some of those guys, like maybe the second tier, third tier, possibly Tad, even 4th tier guys that warrant some starts and obviously some possible sits as well. So yeah, guys, this is what our score schedule is going to look like for the next 18 weeks or so. This is sort of what we're going to be doing now going forward. But guys, we want to make sure that you're winning your fantasy championships. So that's why it's always critical to listen to our episodes at the beginning of the week, and then obviously listen to our episodes at the end of the week as well.
So should I start or sit Patrick Mahomes? I'm not quite sure. It's tough.
I think it's probably a good start. That's probably
you
a good
think
start.
It's a good start?
Yeah, I think so. Especially,
I don't know.
Yeah, but I think some news that surfaced out of Kansas City that could be interesting, though, Ted, is I don't know if you heard, but Hollywood Brown is going to go on the IR potentially.
No, I did not hear that. What?
It's looking like his injury is actually pretty serious.
No!
So he may miss more of the season than earlier anticipated. So Xavier Worthy holds a lot more value now. And then another guy, Rasheed Rice.
I only have one IR spot.
Rasheed Rice, who killed it in week 1, we could see him continue that trend as the season progresses as well. So, yeah, I know you joked about Patrick Mahomes, but yeah, there is some news out of Kansas City that could warrant other guys potentially getting more starts as the weeks progress.
In all seriousness, well, first off, that was actually a real reaction because I had no idea. I had not heard of that before this very moment, and now I'm thinking my own roster. But wow, now Xavier Worthy has a very real shot at Rookie of the Year. If they continue to utilize him, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. But yeah, that could affect things as far as that receiving room for the Chiefs for sure. And yeah, possibly Patrick Mahomes' stock going forward too. Like that definitely takes a either hit or a plunge, whatever way you want to look at it. But yeah, that sort of changes things as well there.
Do I drop Hollywood Brown or do I hang on to him? Man, if only there were some fancy experts to consult on this.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. There's still early preliminary news as far as like whether they're going to put him on IR, whether he's going to need surgery or whatever it is. So it's still very early stages. But yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that, Kansas City Chiefs are putting Hollywood Brown on the shelf and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Like that wouldn't surprise me at all based on the news that surfaced today.
Damn it!
But yeah, these sorts of things also, Tad, affect people's sports betting. So, our good friends at Underdog Fantasy, this is where, it really pays to sort of pay attention to all those NFL storylines. So, it's like whether you want to, bet on the NFL action, college football action, the last, regular season, couple weeks of the WNBA season, the last month of the MLB regular season, the playoffs, obviously, when it comes to both the WNBA as well as MLB, you got the NBA tipping off in October. So, there's a lot of things you'll be betting on right now. Bet with Underdog Fantasy because, they're a very easy website to use when it comes to sports betting needs. All you have to do is make anywhere between 2 and 8 different prop bet picks across whatever sports you're comfortable with. The more picks you make, more potential money you can win. So, guys, really easy to get into it. And so they use the promo code that they shared with us. That promo code is DESAI, DESAI. You could double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500, courtesy of our good friends Underdog Fantasy. So, if you were to use our promo code on your first deposit, only the first one, the initial initial deposit, you can get that match dollar for dollar and get a maximum amount of up to $1,000 in their betting platform. You can use the website, very easy to use. You can use the apps both on Apple and Android devices, very easy to use there as well. So guys, that promo code once again is DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500, courtesy of our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. So speaking of Underdog Fantasy, I think this is a good point to sort of transition into, we will be doing our YouTube short with our underdog picks, so check for that later this weekend. But, sort of carrying into that, we also need to talk about our start sit decision. Like we led off the episode, this is sort of like, we're getting to the main slate here on Sunday, as well as the Monday night game, as far as like, this is where we need to make our key decisions as far as guys that we want in our starting lineup this week versus guys that we're potentially sitting. So we'll go through all the 6 major positions when it comes to the fantasy football roster there. We'll start at quarterback. Tad, do you have a start or sit for me this week?
You couldn't talk me off this, picking up this guy off the waiver, because in terms of quarterback, I think he is probably the most popular waiver pickup of the entire week. And that is Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That dude absolutely killed it last week with 4 touchdowns against Washington Commanders. I texted my friends. I think that honestly, the way Baker played, especially last weekend, that is what people expected Johnny Manziel to be in the NFL. Because if you actually watch that game, why are you shaking your head?
Johnny Manziel.
Well, I mean, yeah. All right. No, that part's fair. I thought you were shaking your head at the comparison. But tell me, like, that kind of improviser type play, it's literally like CFB 25 in real life, where like you recruit an improviser, that's what you want at your improviser.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
He only had about 20, 30 rushing yards. He definitely, scrambled out of the pocket when necessary, but he stayed in the pocket. He stayed calm. He, rocketed towards Mike Evans, who also had a monster week. But here's the thing that interests me the most is it's not just Mike Evans that had a monster week. It was Chris Godwin, who had 80 yards and a touchdown as well. Kate Otten, I know he didn't have a great week in terms of fantasy, but he saw enough attention to keep me interested. And let's not forget, Rachaad White is a guy I was very concerned about coming into the season. I'm a believer now. Rachaad White is the real deal. So you have a guy like Baker Mayfield.
You're also leaving out the rookies, though, Tad. Bucky Irving had a good showing, as well as the rookie receiver Jalen McMillan. He scored a touchdown in that game, too.
And that was a little touchdown dependent, which is why I left him out. But Bucky Irving is interesting because I said, what was my big concern with him? I was like, if you depend on him as a runner, you're going to be screwed. But if you depend on him as a receiving back, you're going to feast. I said that. Go back and check our episodes months ago. And months ago, I'm trying to remember. I think that was a post that might have been pre-draft. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I call it that Bucky Irving was a great receiving threat, terrible running threat. I will stand by that opinion until he proves me wrong. But he proved me correct because, yes, he was a great receiving threat for the Buccaneers in this offense. But it just further proves, I think that's what makes the Bucs so good post Tom Brady, is they understand where their strengths are and they go after those strengths. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it may sound crazy of like Baker Mayfield against this Lions defense. Are you insane? No, not really, because I know this Lions defense kept Matt Stafford in check. But again, you look at the quarterback play across the board this last week, it was really, really bad. Only, I think it was 4 or 5 quarterbacks, depending on what format you're in, past the 15-point mark. This was a bad week for quarterbacks. Brock Purdy had a pretty good game. He only scored about 11 points. And so I think the point being is, if there's a quarterback I'm expecting to blow up in week 2 as they acclimate to the game more, it's going to be Baker Mayfield. Especially because if you remember, look back to their playoff matchup last year, and Baker Mayfield threw for 3 touchdowns against the Lions in that playoff matchup. And I know what people are going to scream at me in the comments here of, well, they lost that game. Who cares if they lost? It's fantasy football. I don't care if they lose. As long as I win, I'm happy. So I think that Baker Mayfield is good for at least 2 or 3 touchdowns here. And he may be good for rushing touchdowns as well, which is 6 extra points at most formats right there. So Baker Mayfield, I think, is a very good sneaky start right here.
You also have to just look to last week, Tad, where the Lions played the Rams. And I brought this up as far as a waiver wire pickup. Matthew Stafford playing the Cardinals this week. It's still a great waiver wire ad if you need a quarterback, and in case he's still out there after we get to the end of the week here. But he threw for 317 yards against the Detroit Lions. So it's like you look at Baker Mayfield, he's a little bit more controlled with his sort of passing, his options out there. He's not just, trying to be aggressive. He's very picking and choosing. So he's a lot more conservative with the football. And he's making the smart decisions. So with a sort of more quote unquote fearsome defense in Detroit, I think he'll make the smart moves to prevent causing any interceptions or some bad throws and give you all the benefits as far as him playing against the Detroit Lions defense. So yeah, definitely if you picked him up this week, I think he's got a good start this week. He's also got a good couple starts after that too.
Yep.
So to start the season, Baker Mayfield is a really good streaming option at the quarterback position. So I'm going to go, though, with the sit here at the quarterback position. I'm going to go with Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. They're playing the New England Patriots this weekend. I think, Ted, with this offense, I think there's a lot of optimism with Ryan Grubb as the offensive coordinator to sort of see what we saw at the University of Washington translate to here to Seattle with all the receivers that they have. But I think it's going to take some time. I think we're going to see some growing pains with this offense because if you look at last week when they played the Denver Broncos, Geno Smith had only 171 passing yards. He did rush in 1 touchdown, but he also only had 25 passing attempts. They leaned a little bit more on the run. They had 33 rushing attempts in that game. Maybe that's dictated by the game plan of them playing the Denver Broncos. Maybe that's a part of it too. But just like maybe early parts of the season, we're going to see more of the rushing attack compared to the passing attack here. So you also look at the Patriots defense. Man, a lot of people, I brought this up, I think, in our waiver wire episode earlier this week, but it's like a lot of people who play an eliminator pick'em league pick Cincinnati to beat the New England Patriots. Yep. And pretty sure half of the pool is probably gone. I was one of those people in an eliminator league as well. So they last week the Patriots defense held Joe Burrow and the Bengals passing attack to only 164 passing yards. 0 passing touchdowns. Now you ask that question with all the Ja'Marr Chase contract issues. Well, maybe it's because he didn't play. Ja'Marr Chase played in that game, and they still held them to 164 passing yards. So say what you want, but I don't think the Seattle passing offense is at the level of what Cincinnati can be. I think Seattle can get to that point maybe, but especially early parts of the season with the new head coach, with the new offensive coordinator, I think there's still some growing pains there. They may lean a little bit more on the run here, but just overall, this Patriots defense, I think you had them as your pickup off the waiver wire, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's a really good matchup for the Patriots defense against Seattle anyway. So this week, Geno Smith, if you have him as a streaming option, look elsewhere. But you have him as a, draft quarterback on your roster, swap him out with whoever your bench guy is. Because, I do not like this week's matchup.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to do with you what I do with my students. You ready?
I guess so.
All right. It's time for a pop quiz.
Okay. Got it.
Do you know what alliteration is?
Yes. Consecutive vowel sounds in a consecutive point. Yeah.
Very good. You're smarter than the average 9th grade Texas student. I have an alliteration for the Seahawks right now. Specifically their offense. Stilted, stupid, and stinted.
Yeah, I can see that. They
especially allowed 2 safeties in the first half.
Yeah. It's not a good look.
Stilted, stupid. I forgot what the third one was already. But bottom line being is, it's no fault of Geno Smith at all that this is a bench pick. Because I still am a believer in him. I think he is the definition. He is he is the equivalent in my eyes of Kirk Cousins. He's not great. He's not going to elevate your team, but he's definitely not going to, take your team down. And in today's NFL, where it's like the quarterback is either like you elevate my team or not, like that's a little bit of weird purgatory to be in. But at the same time, you could be in a worse place. But I said that, and you're absolutely right. The Patriots defense was my pick for waiver defense of the week. And it wasn't because of Geno Smith. It was because of that Seattle offensive line is so bad. I know last time I insulted the Seattle offensive line on YouTube. God damn, did those Seahawks fans. Oh my God, they came at me. And you know what? I dare you. Seattle. Come after me. Try to defend your offensive line after last week. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah. Triple dog dare. But might be that offensive line is bad. man. Like, and I understand. I'm already quelling the yelling. You're dealing with injuries. I get it. I am saying your state as of now, I don't trust anyone not named Kenneth Walker III on that offense at all. And that includes DK Metcalf, by the way.
Yeah, this week I'm probably staying away from DK Metcalf as well. But we'll get to wide receivers a little bit later in today's episode, Tad. Let's get to running backs here next. Do you have a start or sit for me here in week 2 at the running back position?
You gotta sit, and it's a risky one.
Okay, I'm curious to hear about this risky pick at running back.
You're curious, I'm nervous. Guys, I know he looked promising. I get it. He had a lot of snaps. I'll get into that. Don't start Zach Moss this week.
Zach Moss. Okay. And who's Cincinnati playing?
Kansas City.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly why, again, I'll get into that. So, yes, I know he absolutely dominated the snap count with a very nice percentage of 69%. I understand that, like, because I know some people are like, ooh, Chase Brown may be the guy that, like, kind of upends this backfield. He's not going to upend this backfield. Unless, obviously if there's an injury, yes, Chase Brown's going to be the guy, but until then, Chase Brown's not the guy. Zach Moss is going to be the number one running back in this Bengals offense. Wow, it's almost as if a very smart fantasy podcast has been telling you that all offseason. We told you guys to lay out for Zach Moss, but in terms of, I'm not saying drop him. I'm being very clear about that. I'm not saying like, oh, he's the bust of the year. Here's my worry is I'm so glad you asked that question of who are they playing. That is why I'm saying bench him. Is because this Bengals offense looks so rusty. They look like they have a lot of things to figure out. And I think that this Kansas City offense on the opposite end of the coin, is that the saying?
Yeah, I guess that closely works.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. Get it, roll coin, because coin rolls. That's clever right there. But I think that this Kansas City offense didn't look like it missed a beat from last year. And in fact, I would argue it looks better. It looks more dynamic than last year. So I think this is going to turn into probably the most high-scoring game of the weekend, which means Cincinnati is likely to bail on the run. So in terms of fantasy, if you're starting Zach Moss in your flex, which, by the way, you should. If you're starting Zach Moss in one of your running back spots, I'm very worried about you. So I think that your best hope for a Zach Moss good fantasy production this week is a good receiving, game where he catches a touchdown or two, where he has, the big screen that goes for 60 yards. And that's a fair assumption to make, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it is just an assumption. And that's what worries me is I don't think the Bengals are going to lean very heavily on the run game. So while Zach Moss looks like a promising start, I'm telling you, I don't believe in him that much. I'm keeping him on the bench for, another guy. I honestly, and God, how about this for a hot take? I trust Devin Singletary more than Zach Moss right now. At least I know Singletary is going to get almost every touch.
That's fair. I think especially for this week, I know you said that Chase Brown is not going to usurp Zach Moss's role anytime soon, but the biggest thing that we saw in week 1, Tad, what was that? It was that Derrick Henry, outside of that opening drive, they went to Justice Hill quite a bit in that game. So I could see something very similar here where it's like, the Bengals are going to be in more passing situations. So that's what we'll see. Zach Moss is a very gifted pass catching running back. So I'm not doubting that too. But I think we may see more of a split share in this game, particularly if they decide to lean more on a passing heavy game plan against the Kansas City Chiefs instead of leaning more on the run. So that's where I could see, like you said, where it's like Zach Moss's only sort of chance to be fantasy relevant this week will be if he's sort of used more in that passing attack. But that could be a situation where they go with Chase Brown more. So, I mean, we'll see about that. But just, this matchup is, I agree with you. It's risky. You can either work completely in your favor and he absolutely balls out and he has a fantastic passing receiving game sort of thing, or it could work based on the game plan where it's like if they use him only as a rusher, not as much as a pass catcher, more that will go to Chase Brown, and then that's sort of how the game will go then.
Who do you trust more, Zach Moss or J.K. Dobbins?
Oh, J.K. Dobbins.
Exactly my point. It's like
another guy that we've been
yes.
championing for all offseason as well. Me especially.
I was about to say, I'll give more credit to you there because I was more of like, it's good.
I've been on the J.K. Dobbins bandwagon all offseason when he signed with the Chargers. So
that entire last week, and I was like, Gus, do something. Gus, do something. And I'm like, nah, he didn't do shit. I was like,
it's that meme that you see on Twitter. It's like, come on,
do something. Yeah, he's poking him with a stick.
Yeah,
it's like, do something, anything. It's
exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Damn it, Gus.
Oh gosh. So I'm gonna go at the start at the running back position. It's funny that you're bringing up Devin Singletary because I'm actually bringing up the running back of the team that the Giants are playing against this week, and I'm going with the Washington Commanders. Brian Robinson Jr. is playing the New York Giants, in case you didn't pick that up there in context there. But Minnesota absolutely gashed the Giants defense on the ground last week with 111 rushing yards, with Aaron Jones totaling 94 of those yards. He also ran in 1 touchdown as well, but just Tad, I remember we were texting back and forth about like Carolina most likely being the number 1 overall pick. They may be in a contest with the New York Giants.
Like, it's going to be a tight race.
It's going to be neck and neck because, they looked awful on both sides of the ball. New York overall was limited on both sides of the ball. They didn't even total 250 total yards on offense. They allowed 312 total yards on defense, also 28 points in a dismal effort against the Minnesota Vikings. In a divisional matchup this week, I think the Washington Commanders are going to do very much what we saw in that week 1. We're going to see this two-headed monster attack with Jayden Daniels at the quarterback position rushing a lot, and then Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be the other half of that dual rushing attack. Because if you look at last week, Tad, Washington, the Jayden Daniels for Washington had 88 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then Brian Robinson Jr. had 40 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown as well. I know they signed Austin Eckler in the offseason, but he was completely irrelevant in the rushing game. He only had 10 rushing yards last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think Brian Robinson Jr. is the clear rushing back in this backfield. Austin Eckler did chip in 52 receiving yards, but the funny thing here is that, okay, that's great. But how many receiving yards do you think Brian Robinson Jr. chipped in last week?
-1.
Lower? 49. 49. Okay. So it was actually pretty close. So it's like you look at that, like, okay, well, Brian Robinson Jr. is also going to be beneficial in the passing attack too. So it's like, okay, well, kind of like we were talking about Cincinnati, where it's like Zach Moss will be more the rusher, then they'll involve Chase Brown in the passing attack, or like, Justice Hill and Derrick Henry. It's like, no. They're clearly using Brian Robinson on both sides of the ball. So, Austin Eckler very much is just like, I don't trust him in this offense just yet. Maybe as the season goes along, they want to make sure that they're getting the most out of Brian Robinson Jr. all season long. But at least for right now, they're very much going all in with Brian Robinson Jr. So, him with a combination of Jayden Daniels, that is a, going forward, that's a very good stack to possibly look at in future draft years. But this year, especially start the season, I think they're definitely going to take advantage of that against a very good matchup in the New York Giants.
I mean, not to keep tooting our own horn, but man, if only someone had told listeners and viewers this, back in July that, I never trust that Eckler signing. I think that Eckler signing was kind of like, is an air raid offense? I'm good with bats. I can do it. Here's the whole problem. And here's the brutal honesty of the NFL. Eckler, by running back standards, is old.
Yeah.
He's old. He's not the same he was. And again, I know he's actually not that old. In fact, I really hate to say this. I'm 90%, look this up while I'm talking. I'm 90% sure Austin Eckler is younger than both of us.
Younger than me, probably, for sure. I don't know about you.
Look that up while I'm talking. But point being is like and that's the whole, again, that's the reality of the NFL is these running backs get so beat up that they're just not the same player. And you could tell it from the way he was with the Chargers last year. He just wasn't the same receiving threat he was. And Brian Robinson is just such a dynamic young running back that he can do both. And it's just it's one of those things. And here's his true like superhero power when it comes to fantasy football, because I see people justifiably so freaking out about this when it comes to Terry McLaurin or I almost said, no, who they trade away? It wasn't John Dotson. Who they trade away?
It was John Dotson. He is now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles.
God, that's so weird. Or Luke McCaffrey, then let's go there. With Washington receivers is, Jayden's just going to run it all the time. And as far as we know, that's a pretty legitimate concern. I think so. But bottom line being is, I think that Brian Robinson is so dual talented, both as a runner, and you pointed this out as well, Amir, that he's so dual talented that, okay, fine, Jayden's going to run all the time. Well, when they decide not to run Jayden in the ground, literally, it's going to be Brian Robinson. It's not going to be Eckler. So he has just core value. Brian Robinson, I really hope none of my friends are listening to this, is one of my top trade targets right now, because I think that dude is going to be a valuable part of that offense moving forward. How old is Austin Eckler?
He is younger than you. He is
God
29.
damn it.
He is 29.
Ah.
Yeah.
I hate being 30 so much.
You are 30. That is a true
29.
fact. That is
Where
a
did
true
he go to college?
Austin Eckler went to Western Colorado. Western Colorado.
Broncos?
I have no idea what the mascot is.
I'm on it. You talk about your next pick. I'm on that one.
All right, so let's actually get to the receivers. We said we'd bring this up a little bit later here. So, I mean, we're talking about, older players here, but I'm going to go with the young guy. I'm going with the rookie, the wide receiver with the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going with the start here. Ladd McConkey is playing the Carolina Panthers this week, so I 100% think he's going to have a fantastic week this week. In Jim Harbaugh's first game as the Chargers head coach, we saw Justin Herbert throw the ball only 26 times. Fun fact, Tad, this was Justin Herbert's 5th career game of throwing less than 30 passing attempts. So,
that game was so goddamn boring.
But I think
I hated every minute.
I'm not sure whether this is the sort of the game plan as to when they played the Raiders, that they were going to stick more with the run. Maybe we'll see Justin Herbert air it out a little bit more. This week could possibly be that week where it's like you're just going to throw it out a little bit more against a very weak Carolina team there. But yeah, McConkey led the team in all receiving categories last week. He scored a touchdown. He led the team in receptions, targets, as well as receiving yards. The Saints offense, with Alfred Rowe's favorite quarterback, Derek Carr, he lit up the Panthers defense last week with 47 points and totaled 379 total yards on offense. 200 of those yards came through the air, courtesy of Derek Carr and that passing attack. So, I mean, you look at Justin Herbert, you look at this passing attack. I know it's a little bit questionable as far as who are the receiving options, but I think one guy that we could sort of rely on in this passing attack, who was another guy. Once again, Ted, we're hitting on all these same notes. These are guys we brought up all offseason long, but Ladd McConkey is a guy that I think Justin Herbert's going to look his direction quite a bit this year. And yeah, especially going against a very weak Carolina team this week, this is an absolute, quick press it, smash that button to start this guy.
Yeah. Here's the one thing I would say against your point is I agree. I think they're going to absolutely blow out the Panthers. God, this may not age well whatsoever, but whatever. Here's my problem. Who's the Chargers offensive coordinator again? Do you remember?
Roman.
Yeah, Greg Roman. This guy absolutely lives and dies for the run game.
It's true.
So here's my issue with this is I think that the Chargers are going to get out to early leads. Like, oh, you mean we can run it 40 times? Let's run it 40 times. Yeah, and then that's what's going to happen. But I do agree with you. And that's why actually, because I was very tempted. I had to choose between, and just to show I put my money where my mouth is. In one of my leagues, I had to choose between Baker Mayfield or Justin Herbert to start at quarterback. In fact, I think it was the LAFB league. And I chose Baker Mayfield for this very reason that I think Justin Herbert's good for 1 or 2 passing touchdowns. And then they're going to just basically shut down the passing game because they're going to have such a big lead. Now, who do I think is going to get those 1 or 2 passing touchdowns? I think Ladd McConkey is by far. If we had to put underdog odds on it, I know this is an over-under, but actually, you know what? Let's make an over-under. If I had to place a bet, over-under, Ladd McConkey 1.5 touchdowns, I would put the over on probably plus 200.
Okay.
In terms of it would shock me if he got over 2 or over 1.5, excuse me. But it also wouldn't shock me that much if he did it. So I completely agree because exactly as you said, we predicted this. Is this is not going to be a very dynamic passing offense, but there's also no one else to pass it to except for Ladd McConkey, especially the way he works in this offense. Because let's give credit where it's due. My boy Quinn Johnson did not look bad.
He looked pretty good.
He had a pretty solid season debut, but again, the way he works in this offense and the way McConkey works in this offense, very different. McConkey is clearly a much better fit in this offense than QJ. And for longtime listeners and viewers, you know how hard that is for me to say.
That is
so
accurate.
no, I'm a big believer in McConkey going forward. If he's still available in your league, I think he is one of the more underrated kind of guys that people look at and go, who the hell is McConkey? Because he's still a rookie. Add him. He's going to be a key piece of this offense. Also, it's the West Colorado Mountaineers.
Mountaineers. Okay,
Mountaineers.
Colorado. I guess I can see that.
They should play West Virginia. The hell is a Mountaineer?
Just a bearded, the Wildcats, right? You got the
Arizona
State, you got Arizona Wildcats, you got the Kansas State Wildcats. So, I mean, it happens.
Johnson's gonna be so mad at me for this, but who's the guy that Robert Redford played? The bearded Mountaineer guy?
I don't know.
Oh my god, it's the one with the gif where he's like,
no, I don't get
like
that. But I have no idea what the movie is.
Oh, this is so bad. Chauncey messaged us in about 2 days and shame us later.
Exactly.
I'm going to be so mad when he tells me. All right, so I got an interesting set for you. This is my I have a lot of risky picks this week. I don't know why I'm going so risky early in the week or early in the season. I'm telling you guys, I know he had a good season. I know, and how about this, actually? Just to prove that we're not biased, this is a guy also, at least I've been talking up all offseason. I think you pretty much agree with my takes on this. But I'm telling you, for this week only, do not drop him. Don't you take your finger off that drop button right now. Don't you do it. But for this week, maybe put him in the bench. George Pickens. I don't like the George Pickens start at all because he did have a pretty solid game against the Falcons where he had 7 catches for 85 yards. Really good, especially in half PPR leagues, especially in full PPR leagues. He racked up those numbers because that was the only person Justin Fields was throwing it to. However, there are 2 main concerns with that. One, the Steelers never scored a goddamn touchdown. I honestly can't remember the last time I watched a team win without scoring a touchdown. That was truly insane to me. 2, do you know who they're playing this week?
Somebody good. I can't remember who it is, though.
Oh, no, they're not good. They have one good player, but they're not good.
Okay, then I don't know.
They're playing the Denver Broncos.
The Denver Broncos.
So who do you think will be matched up against George Pickens?
Oh, Patrick Surtain the
second. Patrick Surtain the second. Exactly. Amir, let's play your favorite game. Over under. How many catches did Surtain hold DK Metcalf to last week? Over under 4.
I can say under.
You are correct, sir. It is 3. He held him for
that's
3
an easy
catches.
One. You're going to give me Patrick Surtain as the over under? Yeah, that's under 100%.
My point stands. Of like, I don't care how good George Pickens. Let's fully admit this. George Pickens is good. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's not as good as DK Metcalf. And if he can hold DK Metcalf to 30 yards, let's think about what he can do to Pickens, especially let's keep in mind that from all reports, Fields is going to start again. As of recording, that is yet to be confirmed, but it's basically all but confirmed. Where Russell Wilson's like really fast tracking this recovery, but it's not going to happen this weekend. It's too soon. We're recording Friday night. Spoiler alert. So point being is, by the way, good win, Kansas State. Very good win. Impressive.
Speaking of Wildcats.
Yeah, for real. So I think that I think Pickens is a good, solid flex option for the rest of the season. But with this matchup against Surtain, I think that a lot of people are going to look at week 1 and be like, I knew it. This is a great thing. Put him in the flex. Don't do it. I'm telling you, Pickens is going to get maybe 4 or 5 points max. He could be the difference maker in your matchup. Sit him. Put that, what you deem as a riskier option in there, because I promise you, Pickens is going to have a rough week this week.
Who are we? The Wildcats. Who are we going to beat? The Wildcats. But yeah, speaking about George Pickens.
You're the worst.
But the biggest thing with George Pickens, too, is like he gave a great stat line for last week, but I was actually considering him as a sit this week as well. And you want to know why his stat line is actually so high. Towards the end of the first half, Justin Fields had a big passing reception to George Pickens for 41 yards. So if you take that away from the 85 yards, then all he had was out of the other 6 receptions that he had in that game, it went to about 47 yards then, right? So I mean, it's just like, that's not saying much as far as his productive day then. It's like, you take that long reception out, his day was pretty mediocre.
Okay, you may need to check my math on that, but that's 7 points. You take away that one reception, he goes from what I don't know, like 11 or 12 points. Again, very solid flex production to, oh, God damn it, why did I start this guy?
Is definitely, because regardless of whether you play in full PPR or half PPR, it's definitely under 10 points. So it's like, yeah, that's not numbers that you want from a receiver that you probably drafted, I don't doubt, in the 3rd or 4th round of your fantasy draft. So yeah, that is not production that I want. And then, yeah, going against Patrick Surtain II this week, that's not a good matchup that I want for the receiver that is pretty much the focal point of this passing offense. And like you said, Pittsburgh just had a hard time throwing the ball, whether it's going to be Justin Fields, whether it's going to be Russell Wilson, whatever it is. It's just like, I am not a big proponent of that passing attack just yet, or maybe even all season long. I'm probably safe to say that for sure. So yeah, I like that sit for sure. All right, Tad, let's get to the tight end position here. Do you have a start or a sit for me here, week 2?
That's what I'm very nervous for. I'm doubly nervous for this one. And just to prove that we truly put our money where our mouths are. Mouth, because it's just me. You're not making this move. I won't put your name on this move as well.
There you go.
Because I'm very scared this may backfire. But hey, if it pays off, it's gonna pay off. So, for those of you who don't know, in my main league, I have David Njoku, who, by the way, actually, despite the Browns' struggle, was actually having a pretty solid week. Njoku was on his way to not great. We like 8 or 9 points, and then of course he got hurt. He's out for the next couple weeks. I'm sitting there, and by some genius's suggestion, my backup tight end was Jack Conklin.
Tyler Conklin.
Tyler Conklin. See, he's so irrelevant. I don't even know his first name. And you know what?
Jack Conklin is the tackle for the Cleveland.
Is that what I was doing there? I was wondering where Jack was coming from. But either way, Tyler Conklin may be so relevant that Jack Conklin is more popular than him because, God damn it, he caught 1 catch for 4 yards against your damn 49ers.
Well, that was more of it. It wasn't a good matchup.
Well, so we'll talk about that, though.
Okay.
So I instead swapped out Conklin for this tight end because I think this tight end is sneaky good. And he's not and this is where the true beauty of fantasy football lands. You don't go for the big names. You go for the name that no one knows, but still has a perfect opportunity to break out. And God damn it, Amir, I'm falling for the trap again, possibly, but I'm going to do it. You ready? Colby Parkinson. The tight end of the Rams. Okay. I'm doing another Rams tight end. I'm doing it. I'm going for it. God help me. But here's the reason why I'm finally saying this is where, like, Sean McVay's hand is almost being forced here. Where, fine, you want to involve the tight end, you got to involve the tight end. Because you look at the injury report on this Rams offense, Puka's out. Higbee is still out from that knee injury way back in January. You got Cooper Kupp, who admittedly did look good. You got Demarcus Robinson, who admittedly did look good. But what's the whole staple of the Sean McVay offense is spread the ball around. Never know who you're targeting. So you got to involve a third person, and Colby Parkinson is a very athletic tight end. I think that he is good for at least a touchdown against a Cardinals defense that I know shut down Dalton Kincaid last week, but I'm telling you, I think that is the exception to the rule, not the rule. I think a lot of people are overrating these Cardinals very quickly. And I think that Colby Parkinson, if he catches a touchdown, is one of the more solid starts in fantasy football this week. So Colby Parkinson is the most valuable low-key pickup for tight ends. And like I said, I had David Njoku. He has been officially ruled out for this week. I'm starting Colby Parkinson. If you take my advice and you go down, just take some solace knowing I went down right there with you. But I'm telling you, we're going up, baby. We're doing it.
Yeah, I think in a matchup this week, especially like I said, sort of all the, constituents behind as to why Colby Parkinson is a good start this week, it all makes sense because, with Puka Nacua out for at least 4 weeks, but Sean McVay saying it could be longer than that. They
Cooper seem Kupp to be kind of trying to downplay that. Like, he'll be fine. He'll be okay. We hope.
Yeah. We'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, Cooper Kupp obviously just picked up where he left off. He's looking pretty solid. But outside of him, it's just like, I don't know who else you could really trust in this passing offense. So you brought up a lot of great names. There's Demarcus Robinson. There's Tyler Johnson, who they have there. Jordan Whittingham, who they drafted out of the 6th round or whatever. So it's like a lot of people are high on him possibly being the next Puka Nacua, which I don't think will happen, but just, they have a lot of all these options. But Colby Parkinson saw a healthy amount of targets against the Lions in that week 1 game.
4 catches for 46 yards for those.
So it's like, I think especially now with one of your key receivers out for the next foreseeable future, at least, right? I think I could see Colby Parkinson being involved in the offense. Now, do I expect him to absolutely boom? That's a little bit risky,
Like I
which
said,
is why this is a risky
touchdown
play.
dependent. It's touchdown dependent.
It is
But
a
like,
risky play.
what
but I
tight
can
end
see
is
it
not
being a ball.
touchdown dependent? And by the way, sorry to interrupt, but by the way, because I totally forgot I was going to bring up this point. I know people are looking at this timestamp of like, why would I listen this long for start sets? Do you want to hear NFL.com's starts for this week?
Sure, let's hear it.
It's pathetic. All right. Number 1, Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
No shit, Sherlock. Number 2, and I swear to God this is true, Mark Andrews.
Wow.
Number 3, this guy's already played, so it's a bit of a cheat code. And by the way, didn't do so hot, Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
Number 4, this is the one where I was like, I gotta bring this up on the episode. Kyle Pitts. Number 5, and final one, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
The hell kind of start list is that, guys?
Okay, the Brock Bowers one I'll probably give a little bit more legitimacy
Brock
to,
Bowers
but
is
the
taking
other
like
four,
80% of leagues at this point.
But I don't know if a lot of people are starting him necessarily, so I'll
I
give them
guess
that
that's
one.
fair.
But 1 out of 5, that's
horrific. So you know what, Colby Parkinson, he's probably still there in most of your leagues.
100%.
So I'm telling you, like, if you're like me, where you're hurting for a tight end and kind of like, I want to start Tyler Conklin, please don't make me do this. Colby Parkinson, much better option.
I do like that. It is a very risky play, but yeah, if it does pan out, then it's like, yeah, you're looking like a genius instead of a fool for sure. So, I'm going with the popular name that a lot of people probably drafted as a potential top 5 tight end. But yeah, I do not like his matchup this week, and that is Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're playing the Cleveland Browns this week, so I got him, as a sit. So last week, Tad, in week 1 against the
Dolphins.
Jaguars played the Miami Dolphins. Thank you. Ingram only had 1 reception. He only had 1 reception off of 4 targets last week against the Miami Dolphins. Heading into week 2, the Jaguars faced a much tougher defense in the Cleveland Browns. Even in a blowout win, not working in the Browns' favor, the Cowboys obviously won that side. They still limited Dak Prescott to only 179 passing yards and only 1 passing touchdown. So now you face an offense that has Trevor Lawrence and maybe some more questionable receivers. And that includes, Evan Ingram. That's like maybe not the same caliber there, what we have in Dallas as far as their passing attack. I just don't see Evan Ingram getting involved enough against a very vaunted Cleveland Browns defense. Because if you look at those passing yards that Dak Prescott had, of those 179 passing yards, only 15 of them went to the tight end, Jake Ferguson. And then of those 32 targets that Dak Prescott had in that game, only 5 of them went to Jake Ferguson. So it's not a lot of numbers for Evan Ingram to work with. Like I said, they have a very good defense there in Cleveland. They have a very easier matchup here with the Jaguars defense. So I could see this being a blowout working in the Browns' favor if this offense can look a little bit better, be able to run the ball a little bit more with Jerome Ford, because their defense will keep them, sort of in the ball game a little bit more there. So they won't have to worry about letting Deshaun Watson throw the ball as much instead of in a blowout situation against Dallas last week. So I could see this sort of working in the Browns defense's favor, and they're really going to limit what the Jacksonville Jaguars are able to do. And so, yeah, for that reason, I just don't like Evan Ingram as a start this week.
In a weird way, we have the same take, but somehow the opposite take, where I think the Jags are absolutely going to blow them out. I think.
Really?
I think the Browns, and you were texting me bragging about this last weekend. Is after watching them in week 1, and maybe this overreaction, I'm on board with you, buddy. Cleveland in the top 10 of next year's draft. 100%, I could see that happening. So, but regardless, if one team is blowing out the other, the tight end's not getting much attention. And also, this Jaguars offense is just tough to figure out. I know I was kind of shitting on Tank Bigsby last week, and we did record on Sunday night, so I had yet to see the advanced stats. But Tank Bigsby actually had close to the same snap amounts as Travis Etienne, which surprised me. I think it surprised the Jags. I don't think this Jags offense really knows what it is yet. It's still trying to figure out its identity, and that's also very dangerous. But essentially, we're just boiling this down to what the science is when it comes to fantasy tight ends. Is he going to boom this week or bust this week? Because that's the whole frustration with tight ends, is there's no in between. Like, you're not going to get a receiver who's like, oh, he's good for 10. He's good for, I know I'm going to get, it's like, dear Lord, please score a touchdown this week. Otherwise, I'm screwed. And I think if you're playing on a boom against what you admitted is still a pretty solid defense, I think that's a mistake. You got to go for the no-name, tight end like Colby Parkinson, who's playing a bad defense like the Cardinals. And that's despite the name difference, where you're like, Colby Parkinson over Evan Ingram. Are you insane? It sounds insane, but honestly, it's a much safer bet than going with Evan Ingram because it was the same way last year. Where what was it, week 2 or 3, where Evan Ingram went off for like 30 points, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this guy's great," and he was one of the most popular pickups of the week that week. And then he had like, I don't know, 5 points next week. And that's just typical tight end stuff. So no, I'm with you. This Browns defense is a little too intimidating still to be like, all right, he's gonna make his name here. It's like, nah. There are better bets to be made out there.
Yeah, fantasy football can sometimes be the absolute like bizarre situations, bizarre world. Because I remember one year I was playing fantasy football. This is when Jay Cutler was playing for the Miami Dolphins. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, please tell me this was a flinch game. Do you remember that?
I do remember that game. But I had Peyton Manning, and he was having an absolute shit
was
season.
he in the Broncos?
I think that was his very last year in Denver where he had a shit season.
Yeah, no, that is.
And I dropped.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you, but for those of you who don't remember, he was having such a bad season, he got benched. Peyton Manning got benched for Brock Osweiler, and Brock Osweiler made $70 million off that.
Insane. But the funny thing about that was that I ended up dropping Peyton Manning in fantasy football. It's like, you would think that's absolutely ridiculous, right? No. I dropped him for Jay Cutler. Like, that's how crazy sometimes things get, right? In fantasy football, but he never played again in the regular season. So, I mean, it was a good, drop and start or whatever it was, but just like, that's how weird the fantasy landscape can be. So it's like, yeah, starting Colby Parkinson over Evan Ingram can sound weird, but in some cases, it's really just matchup dependent and how players are sort of looking. That's just like, yeah, that's the better move.
I traded away Christian McCaffrey last year. So I was scared. I was scared.
To tell you not to.
Shut up for a second.
Not to do it.
I was scared of a lower leg injury lingering. I traded him away. He started the next week. Now you decided to take some rest because of a lower leg injury? Asshole.
Yeah. Well, at least you don't have to worry about trading him or potentially not trading him, whatever it is. Right?
I literally forced myself into not being able to trade this year. And honestly, it's been out of your hands. The last 2 weeks have been very, very less stressful than most of my seasons.
There you go. All right, Tad, let's get to our kickers and defenses for this week. Do you got starts or sits, or what do you got for me here?
I'm feeling a certain way, Amir. Feeling, I don't know. I'm a little happy. I'm a little sad. A lot of stuff going on in my personal life where it's not going so well. But hey, my fantasy team won last week, so I'm feeling kind of happy. It's almost like you'd say, I'm moody.
I do like me some Jake Moody. He single-handedly won you a fantasy championship.
Yes, he did.
Won a lot of people a fantasy championship.
That man is a monster.
And of course, with the game that he had, he won the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. I mean, why wouldn't he have won the award? So.
Well earned. And you know what I say? If he's got the hot leg, you ride with that hot leg, sir. You do it just like a chicken thigh at Wingstop. You go with. Do they even do thighs? I don't even know.
No, they stopped doing the ties because the thighs were terrible.
I don't know. I never had a thigh there. I just went for the.
I never did either. But
by the way,
actually, I remember we did an episode with Jake Seeley of The Athletic, and he had the thighs, and he said they were absolutely terrible. So
okay, there you go.
I don't doubt why they stopped doing them.
Was he the Steelers guy?
No, Jake Seeley is the fantasy guy with The Athletic.
Okay, who's the? Oh, that was Tony DeFeo. That's who that was. God, that was like 3 years ago. We've been doing this a long time. Yeah, anyway, point being, back to Jake Moody. Yes, this is 100% a bias pick because he scored 26 points to single-handedly win me week 1. But you know what? I'm saying keep on riding with him for the reason that I brought up just a couple minutes ago, where the fact that Christian McCaffrey, as of today of recording, will be out for week 2. And I think, look, nothing against Jordan Mason, but I think as teams game plan more towards Jordan Mason, his effectiveness will slowly fall off. Not saying he will be ineffective. I'm just saying I don't think he's going to be like the, holy shit, where did this guy come from for too much longer? Maybe he will. I hope that happens because he is a great story. But point being is I think this offense will be just ineffective enough to give Jake Moody a lot of field goal opportunities. I'm not saying he's going to go off for 20 plus points again, but I do think he is good for at least 10 points moving forward until Christian McCaffrey gets healthy.
Okay. And what do you got for me at defense?
Defense, I got to look it up real quick. All right. I'm telling you. The Washington Commanders are playing a fearsome defense. I hate how you know who they're already playing. It's
Well,
really
because I brought this up earlier when I talked about Brian
I
Robinson
hate
Jr.
you.
So
I
people
hate you.
already know who you're going to talk
It's
about.
been 40 minutes.
Your
People
bit
forgot.
is already fallen through.
They're playing the Giants. The joke is they're playing the Giants. So, like, obviously pick up the Commanders. Potentially everyone's already picked them up. So here's the reason I was saying up for that joke is that here's what I hate so much about these stardom sim with defenses is like, thank you. By the time I read this article, most of those defenses are already off the waiver wire. Yeah. So what is a low key defense that I could pick up that like I'm panicking right now, right? Like, I don't know, maybe different quarterbacks coming in, whatever. What is a low key defense that's still there as of listening right now, which should be Saturday, that will still give me solid points? I'm telling you, this is the perfect defense. Is the Seattle Seahawks. And that is right. I'm pitting defense against defense. I picked the New England Patriots for my waiver wire pickup, and I'm saying for the stardom pickup, you start that Seahawks defense. Because I am telling you, I think here is the whole thing with this whole that Bengals debacle that happened last week. I almost said last year. First off, Jacoby Brissett is good, but we saw the Seahawks defense bully Bo Nix a lot. Where to a certain point, I don't know how much of that game did you watch?
I watched a good portion of it. Okay,
so you'll probably agree with this. By the third quarter, they basically bullied Bo Nix to the point where he was just throwing screens the whole time. He was not looking downfield. He barely, and especially for a rocket arm quarterback like Bo Nix, that is your strongest asset, dude. Is you can rocket it 60 yards down the field. Start doing that. He didn't because he was scared. Because that offensive line is just diminished so badly. So the Seahawks defense still has some of that old Legion of Boom culture around it. And I understand why people are like, well, that was a rookie. That's pretty easy. Jacoby Brissett's not much better than a rookie. I know that because I lived with Jacoby Brissett for about 2 years with the Colts. And while he's not bad, he's not great either. And then also, I think that you got to remember this whole Patriots team, it's an entirely new team. I don't think the Bengals really knew what they were game planning for. Who knew that Ramondre Stevenson would be dependent on that heavily? But now the Seahawks have some game film. Shut up. That was a hot take at the time, and you goddamn know that.
I picked it when we did our deep dive about Jarrod.
You thought he was going to do that well. You thought he was going to score 20 plus points.
I don't think he was going to do that well, but I did expect him to have a good season.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not saying anyone thought he would do well for the season. I'm just saying who thought he would do that well in week 1. Okay. Basically no one. So point being is now the Seahawks kind of know what's coming. I'll be very interested to see if the Patriots can respond. And my guess is they won't be able to. So will the Seahawks get you a miraculous 20-point defense? Like, they got, I don't know, 2 safeties in the first half. And did they get pick 6? Probably not. But if you're truly desperate of like, I don't know what to do with my defense, and you want someone that's going to get you 6, 7, 8 points pretty safely, I think the Seahawks are a pretty safe bet there.
All right. Interesting. So I will start with the kicker position here first. I'm going to go with the sit. I'm going to say sit Daniel Carlson of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Carlson only scored 3 fantasy points.
Are you finally turning against the Raiders?
Maybe a little bit.
How about your boys?
Carlson only scored 3 fantasy points last week. He made 1 field goal, but he missed an extra point of all things last week. So this week, the Las Vegas Raiders played the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. So I don't like that matchup that week that much. Last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison Butker did make 2 field goals, and he had 3 extra points. But the biggest thing is just I have a little bit more faith in the Chiefs offense to matriculate the ball down the field more than the Las Vegas Raiders against this vaunted Baltimore Ravens defense. So yeah, I just don't like the Raiders to get into situations where Daniel Carlson can have field goal opportunities, even just, to sort of put points on the board for Las Vegas. So yeah, not a huge fan there. Defense, special teams here. Tad, you got a point.
Wind gusts are expected to be up to 10 miles per hour on Sunday in Baltimore.
That's pretty strong. So yeah, Daniel Carlson, not a huge fan of his.
He's screwed.
You may be a fan of my defensive special teams here, pick Tad. Indianapolis Colts versus the Green Bay Packers. I'm saying start them because the Green Bay Packers are rolling with Malik Willis, at least for this week, while they wait for Jordan Love to return from his knee injury. The Colts do have experience playing against Malik Willis because Malik Willis was formerly drafted by the Tennessee Titans just this offseason.
Tennessee, take him back. Take him back, Tennessee.
He was just this offseason traded to the Green Bay Packers to be a backup for Jordan Love. But here's some fun facts about Malik Willis, Tad. In his NFL career, Willis has played 12 career games in the NFL. never thrown a passing touchdown in any of
What?
those 12 career games. He has rushed for one. He has rushed for a touchdown, but that is the only touchdown he has scored in the NFL, either passing or rushing.
That is
only
truly
rush for one
shocking.
rushing
That's
touchdown.
not a bit, by the way, for our viewers and listeners. That's not a bit. I truly did not know that.
Here's another one. In 12 career games in the NFL, Tad, Malik Willis has never thrown for over 100 passing yards in a single game this season.
When you said one, I thought it was going to be 150.
100.
How many starts? 7?
Yards. He came close. He came close. In the 2022 season that he played against Houston, he threw for 99 passing yards, but he fell just 1 yard short. And Tad, last fact that I'll give you, in those 12 career games, he is averaging 1 sack per game.
Oh, that's not that bad.
So it's not that bad, but still, it's like you can guarantee at least when you're talking about fantasy defense here with the Colts, Tad, you got a quarterback that you're familiar with. If you can generate sacks, that gets you fantasy points. If you can limit the passing touchdowns, that gives you points, obviously, as well. So the Colts are a sneaky good play, just like you were talking about, Tad, with sort of like you're waiting for a defense to pick up at the end of the weekend where most of the other defenses have already been claimed. This is a defense that's probably still out there. So, yeah, I'd say claim the Indianapolis Colts defense. I think they have a good matchup this week against the Green Bay Packers, led by Malik Willis.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is a real stat. Last year, Malik Willis averaged 4.5 yards per throw.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Oh, that's so sad. Now, okay, I will say this is, while not a bad pick, I think it does carry more risk than people realize.
That's fair.
Because Malik Willis is that bad. And I think that the way you get true points off defenses is through turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, as a Josh Jacobs manager, I'm very happy about this because they're going to lean on that dude so heavily. I'm also a little happy, a little nervous. I don't know. That's talk about boomer bust. But point being is, I don't think they're going to trust Malik Willis to throw it all that much, which means the chances of turnovers is obviously lower. So that's my one big real concern for this. But that is truly the boomer bust defense pick of the week. Of like, you know, if for whatever reason, if LaFleur gets so full of himself, he's like, I can make this work, which I think he might, because there were rumors of that, and people asked him over the week, they were like, are you going to get Ryan Tannehill? It's like, I don't care about Ryan Tannehill. It's like, okay, dude.
After this week, you will. After this week, you will.
No, exactly. So,
but I think the big thing that's sort of, you know, to sort of speak here about the Colts defense as to why I'm sort of in favor of them, as far as like, even though it's still a risky play, I'm not doubting that, but it's like, I'm still liking them to sort of perform and make your risk worth it, is that, yes, against the Texans, they had over 200 rushing yards. You know, Joe Mixon had himself a career day against the Indianapolis Colts. But the biggest thing there is that in that game plan, the Colts probably had to worry about more about CJ Stroud than they're worrying about Joe Mixon, right? So it's like they're probably game planning more to stop the pass. And that's how Joe Mixon was able to gash them throughout the game. Whereas in this game now, it's like, you know, Malik Willis is a quarterback. So they're going to key in on stopping Josh Jacobs. And it's like, okay, Matt LaFleur, if you're trusting Malik Willis to lead your passing offense, force him to beat our defense. So it's like, I think that's where I sort of side more with the Indianapolis Colts. That's like, they will force the Packers to air it out, and they'll force Malik Willis into bad situations and force him to, like you said, make some turnovers and throw some bad balls to force some interceptions. Like, very much reminiscent of that Will Levis pick that he threw at the very end of that Chicago Bears game. Where just sitting there like, that's like, I can see that potentially happening in a game there with the Colts and the Packers there. So that's why I like the Colts a little bit more this week too.
Well, even going back to last week, is like everyone, and it's kind of bugged me throughout the week, is everyone's been like, oh, Indianapolis got gashed. And you're right, we got gashed by one player. Largely, we held CJ Stroud in check. CJ Stroud did not have that great of a game.
But like I said, it's like, I'm pretty sure you went to the game plan stopping the pass, and it's like you didn't give as much attention to stopping the run then.
Exactly. So like our defense is capable of having good games. It's just, you know, we're not quite there yet to be an elite level defense. So no, I think that, again, this is a boomer bust pick, because if they game plan for it correctly, 100%. But my whole concern is they're the kind of defense I think you kind of pick up expecting a boom and you get like four or 5 points. I don't expect the Colts to get you negative. So if you just want to go for the super safe bet of like, look, I just need a defense that's just not going to screw me, the Colts are absolutely your safest pick right there.
Bold prediction, Latu, 1.5 sacks.
Oh, I would love that.
Of course you would.
That would be fantastic. Give it to me.
All right.
Put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
All right, guys. So those are our start and sit picks for this week. But I mean, we only covered just a semblance of the players. If you have individual players that you need to worry about as far as your specific roster, guys that you could probably claim off the waiver wires, you know, guys that you have in your bench that you want to put in your starting roster, hit us up on our social media handles. You see the ticker is coming right down below. You got us on Twitter. You got me at OnTheSide23. You got Tad at TadSide94. Got the show handle at The Decide Guys. And of course on Instagram at The Decide Guys as well. So hit us up. Let us know what are your decisions that you need to make this week. We'll help you make all those decisions. We are here to help you win some fantasy titles and some fantasy championships. Take home some gold here in the 2024 fantasy season. So guys, don't be afraid to interact with us with waiver wire help, start sit help, trade help, whatever it is. We're here to help you out all season long. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And please support our parent network at LAFB Network, because without them, there would be no us. They're giving you a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers at the NFL level and the Bruins and the Trojans at the college football level. So, I mean, guys, lots of great content coming from all those content promoters over there about all 4 LA football teams. Once again, guys, we appreciate everybody who supports the podcast, whether you're listening, whether you're watching the videos, whether you interact with us on social media. I mean, just anything and everything that you're doing to support the podcast. We can't thank you enough.
And don't forget, check in early every week for our waiver wire pickup episodes. We are dropping those either Monday or Tuesday. We're still trying to figure out our schedule, but we promise it will drop before the waiver wire drops in your league.
100%,
so
100%.
if you were like, I don't know who to pick up, we got you. We got 6 picks at the least to, for you to consider. So be sure to check in for that. We also check in every Saturday afternoon / morning, depending on what time zone you're in. He's in the West Coast time zone. I'm in the Central time zone. That's a little weird. But every Saturday, we're dropping our favorite NFL bets. I promise you, you're going to make some money by the end of the season. You may win some, you may lose some, but by the end of the season, you're going to be in the positive. You're going to be in the green. 100% promise that. And then on top of everything, guys, I know we're a little cookie cutter. Once the season starts, we're doing waivers, we're doing start 'em, sit 'em, we're doing, NFL bets. But if you have a personalized fantasy question, hey, I don't know who to start between this guy and this guy, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on YouTube. We look at that stuff. Even look at our last YouTube short with our NFL bets, courtesy of our partners at Underdog Fantasy. We respond to stuff, even if it's the negative. We'll respond to stuff. We love seeing interaction. We love it. Our last video we released of our waiver wire episode was the highest viewed count ever, and we were so excited to see that we were reaching out to so many of you. We want to help as many of you out as possible. So keep reaching out to us. We will help you one-on-one. We'll talk through trades. We'll talk through, waiver, debates. We'll do anything. I had a guy text me today, being like, hey, I need some help in the IDP league. What linebacker do I pick up? I texted him for about a solid hour discussing which linebacker. It was Logan Wilson, by the way. I really hope none of his league members are listening to us right now. But bottom line being is, I loved it. That this is our passion. This is why we do it. So we want to help you guys win your league as long as you're not in ours. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And please stay safe, everyone.